For those joining us for the first time and watching Pundits live, today is 29th of June, Tuesday 29th June 2021, and we'll be looking at some of the topical issues that have dominated the Nigerian political landscape. We'll be doing justice by analyzing and looking for solutions and way forward, whereby some of these issues can have an headway. So as a nation, we can all move on to have a better nation and also to live in a peaceful and a secured environment. Joining me today in looking at some of this issue is Mr. Oluku Bienusi Matthew.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Matthew, we'll be looking at some of the headlines that has dominated the Nigerian landscape in the last couple of days, starting with the statement credited to the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in person of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. He said, many traumatized by Nigeria's situation, many Nigerians are traumatized by the current situation. Then moving away from that, we're looking at a statement by the People's Democratic Party, which says, you can't defect with our mandate. They're referring to the governor of Zamfara State in person of Matawali. Then moving away from that, we'll also be looking at the social vices that have also dominated the society one way or the other. Super TV CEO was burned, gagged, tortured. That is a statement credited to the brother. Super TV CEO was burned, gagged, tortured. That is the brother coming out to say the incident that led to the death of the Super TV CEO was there's more to it than just what we read on the pages of newspaper initially. Moving away from that, we'll be looking at the Yoruba Nation. We are going ahead with July 3 rally. That statement was credited to Ilana Omo Odua. We are going ahead with July 3 Lagos rally. Then last but not the least, we're looking at the Niger Delta Avengers threatening federal government. Niger Delta Avengers threatens federal government. So in analyzing this issue, Mr. Matthew will be doing this while we'll start with the statement credited to the former president Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. For viewers at home who want to be part of this conversation, who also want their opinions to be heard about some of these issues, you can please join us by calling on the phone number 0902553714 0902553714. So, Mr. Matthew, many traumatized by Nigerian situation. Statement credited to Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. So, what's your take on this?
The former president, in the person of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, made that statement when there was a courtesy visit in his residence by the albinos, because from what I can understand, he sponsored surgery of some physically challenged persons in Nigeria. So it was consequent upon that the albinos in Nigeria, the association, deemed it fit for them to visit him and say thank you to him. Having said that, it is no longer a news that Nigeria's situation is precarious. It's no longer a news that we have crisis of insecurity across all the geopolitical zones in Nigeria. So it was on that basis that the former president was speaking that many Nigerians are traumatized by Nigerian situation. Because if you look at the Nigerian situation currently, you see that what he's saying is a statement of facts. Because look at what we have in the Middle Belt, for instance. A situation where you are seeing people turning into IDP camps. IDP camp is being opened on daily basis in Benue State, for instance. And you see the government is not forthcoming in addressing this issue. Look at what we have in the Northeast, the insurgency. It is only recently that we are seeing a slowdown in the operation of the insurgents, perhaps because of infighting between Boko Haram and ISWAP. So ordinarily, Nigerian government have not done its part in curtailing the excesses and activities of Boko Haram and insurgents generally. But fortunately for Nigerian states, we can now see that there is supremacy fight between ISWAP and Boko Haram. Only recently, we are made to understand that Shakao, who was leading Boko Haram, has committed suicide. Just recently, too, we read that Boko Haram launched a counterattack on ISWAP. So by implication, Boko Haram have been decimated by ISWAP, and ISWAP have equally decimated Boko Haram. So all in the best interest of Nigerian sovereign state. Then look at the major issue we are having currently is banditry. In Zamfara State, in Kaduna, the one we used to have in Katsina is not as serious as it used to be. But the epicenter of bandits now is Zamfara and Kaduna. We have equally read recently how certain Kaduna residents have raised alarm over the level of insecurity in southern Kaduna. How about 100 persons are in captivity currently. So what I'm saying, generally speaking, is it is a statement of fact that many Nigerians are traumatized.
Let me quote some of his statistics and what he actually said, and how he placed the statement. Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan said, with all the issues bedeviling Nigeria, incident of mental health had solidly become a challenge, as most Nigeria were currently traumatized by the happenings in the society. Most of these crimes perpetrated are drug-induced, because no sane Nigerian will just go and commit crime except he is high on something. Imagine starting your day with the news of killing in the morning. It leaves an impression on your mind. We need to look into the issue of mental health. What do you see in correlation with what has been happening in recent times?
In as much as I will agree with him to an extent when it comes to narcotic, but
it
depends on the perspective from which you are seeing it. If you are seeing from the perspective of it is being propelled by monetary gain, then narcotic is just a simulator. But you cannot solely say that it is purely drug that is making people to go into these crimes. One, there is an ideology point of view, ideology angle to it. Yes, secondly, there is
a religious
ideology angle to it.
There's an ethnic.
The ethnicity is not too pronounced in the current crisis we are having. Then there is angle of making wealth out of it, especially the banditry. For me, people who are into banditry, it is purely based on economic factor. But again, you look at the personalities involved, especially where you have people from Niger, people from Burkina Faso, people from Libya coming to Nigeria to become bandits and form themselves into a formidable force. They go to villages, communities, kidnap people, and ransom is being paid. And government is not showing the willpower or showing that exercising that sovereignty to arrest the situation. So for me, in as much as I agree that drug, narcotic stimulates people to take those actions, but they already have that intent to do it. So that is where Nigerian sovereignty has called to question. Because if you claim to be a sovereign nation and you have the mandate to protect life and property, you have the mandate to protect the sovereignty and integrity of the country. We have people coming from other countries, infiltrating into the country, into Nigeria with sophisticated weapons. They will go to the forest, hibernate in the forest, hold sway there, kidnap people for ransom, negotiate for ransom with even state governments. We have even seen situations where even Zamfara State governor is even using a carrot and stick approach to address the situation. So what I'm saying in essence is the government need to rise to its responsibility. Because if they were Nigerians, it's a different ballgame. Mr. President have alluded to the fact that most of these criminal headers, because we can understand that most what they call bandits, according to Shegumi, they are Fulani henchmen who claim that their cars have been rustled. They now see it as a justification to take to crime. So if you not just oppose that with the statement of the president that have alluded to the fact that there are foreigners who come into the country through the borders with sophisticated weapons. Now, how do you now draw the line to determine who is a Nigerian bandit and who is a foreign bandit? So, logically speaking, it means we have foreign bandits in Nigeria. To that extent, you cannot tell me that as a government, you will sit comfortably in the government house, watch Nigerians being kidnapped on daily basis, being killed on daily basis, women being raped on daily basis, and people are kidnapping for ransom. So for me, I agree to an extent that the drug aids the crime. But I don't think that is the
only reason,
originating factor that propels them into doing it. I think it's majorly based on economic factor, what they want to get out of it. And we are seeing how people will be kidnapped and they are demanding for even 100 million.
No, some.
So how lucrative can the business be? If somebody can demand for 100 million and is paid. So I think it is to an extent, from what I can understand, it is the monetary aspect of it that is driving people into it.
Sometimes it seems I haven't seen the trend at which people or government.
Then again, looking at the mental health of Nigerians vis-a-vis the crime, I think because the man who has no means of livelihood cannot have mental stability. So if there is a group of bandits who are looking for lieutenants to recruit into banditry, there's every possibility that that man who have no means of livelihood, who is frustrated, who is a destitute,
will easily be lured.
Will easily be
a member.
Will easily be
mobilized.
Yes, because the man who have no hope of next meal is vulnerable to being recruited into
even with 1,000 naira.
Yes. So looking at the mental health of Nigerians vis-a-vis the crime, I think it's still back to the government need to do the needful to address the welfare of Nigerians. Because if the constitution tells us that security of the people and welfare of the people shall be primary purpose of governance. Primary purpose of governance underlined. So it tells us that the government has failed in that primary responsibility. And the government have to come clean and own up to this failure and start addressing it. Because the earlier you start addressing it, the better. Because if you now succeed in handling Nigerians who are potential bandits, potential kidnappers, potential insurgents, you address their immediate need. As such, they are no longer vulnerable to be recruited into those criminal organizations. You cannot deal with people who are coming to the country to perpetrate crime. So for me, it still boils down to government leadership failure. Because I told you this, I said it in several, what I want to say, I've said it severally, that I'm surprised when Boko Haram members repented and they needed to reintegrate them back into the society. It will be surprising to know that out of 600 and something that repented, 600 and some fraction were Nigerians. It is even only recently that Mr. President, Muhammadu Buhari, acknowledged that Boko Haram members are Nigerians. He said because they have been briefed by Borno State Governor. So it still takes us back to failure of leadership. There's something fundamentally wrong.
No, but I'm sorry, Mr. Matthew. If you check the trend analysis, how this government responds to such issues, they will tell you that it's a failure on the local government, the state government, the traditional ruler that are closer to these people. If you check the body language of this presidency at passing the buck, they will not even say it's a failure of
It's
leadership.
not about what they say, it's about the truth we know. Because the truth is this. If you, as the president who is running the affairs of the country, refuse to relinquish power by way of power devolution, how can we be talking of universal basic education and federal government is a major stakeholder? If the role to educate a child from the cradle rests with the federal government, majorly with the federal government, how can you now turn to start blaming the traditional rulers, the state governors, and the local government chairmen for negligence in bringing that child up in the right way of life?
When the major role is ascribed
because
to you.
I quite agree, the religious leaders has moral authority over the people. But to what extent do the constitution give them role to play? I don't think they have that role. Because if you look at the way the constitution acknowledge their position, 5% of the revenue that comes to the local government is a statutory allocation for religious leaders, traditional leaders. But the question is, what did the constitution give them clear-cut responsibility in terms of molding, training, bringing up the child? I don't think so. So until you give them that responsibility, you cannot shift blame to them. The federal government that has so much responsibility should take a larger blame in terms of wrong upbringing of the child. Because we have norms of the society. We have different acts. I quite agree with the school of thought that says that the parents have a role to play. That is correct. But what happens if the child gets to the age of enrolling in school? And in most of the northern part of the country, we have parents who do not have what it takes to educate the child to secondary school level. And if federal government is not providing the platform for the child to get that education, there's a problem. I could recall that Jonathan was busy building Arraigned school across all the northern states. I'm not saying
in comparison to the success of others.
I'm not saying they may not have done one thing or the other. If you even subject a Buhari regime to a critical analysis, you will see one or two areas he have performed.
Definitely.
So but I'm not looking at what I'm looking at.
In comparison, what I'm looking at is if we pick XYZ factors, because what affects the common man is what I'm talking about. I'm not here to deliberate on how the government has done so good or so bad, but how was it translated to the betterness of people out there? You and I be subjected to critical argument between this government and in terms of handling some of the issues in the northern part of the country that the president is from and the last administration. Not that the last administration might not have faults in some areas as well. Head to head, if you're looking at insecurity, the Amajiri, you look at some of the things that the Amajiri schools, they brought onto the table. Who has done more in that the populace, even the North, can testify, has tried? This is not about ethnicity or religion, has really seemed to have performed better.
Looking at it from that perspective, Jonathan had the interest to change the trend. Like I've said, he made an effort to build an Arraigned school across almost all the northern states. The reason is he wanted those children to be educated. Because the more they're educated, the more they are becoming not vulnerable to be recruited and be radicalized by insurgents. It is easy for somebody who have not gotten the basic education to fall prey of insurgents by way of indoctrination. If somebody who has gotten the formal education to the secondary school level, for instance, it's difficult for you to convince that person that if you kill, it will earn you a good place in paradise. Perhaps, I don't know much about Islam anyway. Perhaps Islam did not put it directly like that. But for somebody who will swallow your word like sink and hookah, who do not know how to his left from his right, it's very easy to control such person. So to that extent, it was a good move by Jonathan, quit this government jettison anyway, to build those schools and to educate these people. And until you start educating them, you are not yet solving the problem. You can buy all the Tucano jet in America and kill as many as people that decide to turn insurgents. In the near future, people will turn
that insurgent because the mental condition
is still not
there, is not changed.
So you need to address that mental orientation.
Is that not the same issue that is applicable to the Ipob? Because it's a mental philosophical ideology. It is not about.
I agree with you to a point, but I think I can see some difference. Because one, you got to take a look at people who are drumming support for Ipob, for Biafra sovereignty. You will see, in fact, it cut across all walks of life. You see some academia, you see some technocrats, you see some artisans.
So what I mean is,
you see some lawyers.
Yeah, I understand
what I'm trying to say in essence is, it goes beyond being hoodwinked by ideology. It has to do with injustice meted to a people.
Okay, Mr. Matthew, I think we've been able to analyze that conversation extensively. And for those who want to join us in the conversation, you can please call 09025537142. 09025537142. Moving away from that headlines, we'll be looking at the statement from the PDP. They said you cannot defect with our mandate. They were talking to Matawali. This is the scene of uncommon decamping. And let's even move down a little bit historically. Before the 2015 general election, the PDP controls the larger numbers of political parties. And as at that point in time, prior to the election, we even had some governors, five who wanted to pull out.
They actually pulled out.
They pulled out from the PDP
and formed a new
PDP
that later
merged with the APC. Now, the question is, looking at what has been happening over time, does this mean that the power block and the realignment for 2023 is set? So, which is, we might be seeing more decamping even from the APC, maybe in time. So, what our political class just jump anyhow from any party, PDP, APC, PDP. This morning you criticize something, next morning you support the same thing without rules, without engagement, without policies. If you read about American politics, a Democrat is a Democrat. They really decamp. There have been cases of minor decamping in American history if you read down from when most of their political activities started majorly. But they have clear-cut ideas. They know where they were going. We don't have people who knows what they're doing. They talk here today, tomorrow they're there. Even when there's no issues in the party, they lie that it's because of the party has no vision, the party is problematic, there's a division, and for selfish interests, they just move. But while they were there for 8 years, some 10, 12 years, they don't come up with these stories. Is it our constitution that is faulty, or the people that is faulty, or the combination of the constitution, the faulty people, and the systemic failures? Sit-tight syndrome, they want to be there forever. So looking at this issue, I laughed because I was reading at it, I was looking at it. I also have a belief that the PDP have also enjoyed this in years back, where some members of other political parties decamped and joined them. Later on, for greedy interests, it is not about the people, because if it is about the people, the country would have been developed more than this. Another set within the party pulled out, formed with the APC, and all the people that pulled out from the party, I can still remember a reasonable number, from Niger State to Kwara State to Kanu State to Rivers State. All of them, they pulled back from the same party they went to support and went back to the PDP. I can remember Babangida Liu, the likes of Kwankwaso, the likes of Tambua, the likes of Rotimi Amechi, I think is the only one that is still there. But for every other 5 governors back then, they pulled back. So these are the people that allow logic to stand on its head, double standard, hypocrisy. They don't uphold the rule of law. They just damble. Is this country going to move forward with this kind of politics? That's what baffles me. And looking at this headline, I wouldn't know what your take will be on this. You can't defect with our mandate. So what is their mandate?
Their law. There are judgments that allude to the fact that the party is the owner of the mandate. That you as a candidate, you are agent representing the party. So to that extent, PDP is correct to say is their mandate.
So
then again, I think the constitution do not expressly state that if you defect as a ruling governor, you win election from a particular political platform, midway into your tenure, you defect another political platform. The constitution is silent that the person should lose his seat, that position. And unfortunately, the area that the constitution expressly states that you do not have the power to defect has to do with House of Assembly, House of Rep, and Senate. The constitution actually did say that if you win election from party A as a senator, except there is division and there's crisis in your political party that leads to polarization of your party.
Sorry, okay, let me
the situation where you may not know the branch of the party to follow. I think that is the only scenario the constitution allows one to defend. But unfortunately, this particular issue have been tested in court, and people who took the case to court didn't see justice. Not just one, not twice.
Well, sorry, Mr. Matthew. And the Constitution is a book that was written by humans. If there's anything that is not clear, that is the reason why there is room for amendment of such constitution. But it is a pity that the same set of people that controls virtually most of the amendment process will not amend the constitution to clearly state what it should stand for in terms of polarization. Because the question is, how would the court come to a conclusion that truly this is the yardstick to which you can ascertain a party's polarization?
Now, let us see from this angle. It is not, we don't need a magic wand to know when the two major leading political parties are in crisis. We all knew when APC was having internal crisis. We all know that there's a possibility of another internal crisis both in PDP and APC. But we all know that currently, both APC and PDP do not have any internal crisis. So to that extent...
No. Some politicians might differ with you on that.
What I'm trying to say in essence is, it's not about what I conceive. It's about what I can prove. If somebody in PDP, for instance, goes to court to say there's crisis in PDP today, and the person is not able to come forward with evidence, of course, it is just like my word against your word. Then looking at the area I was going, this issue of somebody defecting when he's not justified to defect, going by the position of the law, having tested in court. But unfortunately, going by the faulty nature of our judicial system, the judiciary have not been able to live up to its responsibility to hand down judgment irrespective of whose odds is God. We have seen instances where the Senate president, or the Speaker of House of Rep, or even Houses of Assembly, the Speaker of Houses of Assembly, we refuse to declare a seat of a member vacant when such request is sought by a party that is affected, because perhaps it favors the ruling party. And we have seen instances where even the party that is affected has gone to court.
So, for viewers at home who want to join us in the conversation, you can please call 090-255-371 42 090255374142.
So we have seen instances where even the party that's affected have gone to court. Even as we speak, there's no any valid judge giving credence to discourage people
from cross-carpeting,
defecting in that manner. So you see that it's a combination of all the factors you have mentioned. And it's unfortunate that because of the nature of Nigerian politics and because of the driving force of Nigerian political gladiators, of the Nigerian political class, nobody is interested in amending the constitution to deepen the democracy.
Okay, so Mr. Matthew, so the judiciary is part of the blame.
Both the judiciary, both the political class, they are all
part of the system. We have a long way to go. Yes. Moving away from that, there's this news. Super TV was burned, gagged, tortured. That is a statement coming from the brother.
I've read it.
Yeah, so as of 2 days ago, I was going through some of the social media commentaries and some newspaper view on this very issue. So many people raised pertinent questions. I was reading the comment page of one of the newspapers, notable newspapers in Nigeria, and people asked, I'm trying to rephrase some of the question, is it possible for a 21-year-old lady to have been able to tie his hand, because from the report and some of the things that we read online shows from the remains of the late Agatha, that Ataga, yes, that there were signs as if he was bonded, they tied his hand, and so many stuff. So people begin to wonder that, was it possible that a single lady would have been able to hold the man to ransom, tied his hand? Some even claim there were spews of blood maybe around the house or the wall. It seemed there was a struggle, sort of. Now, there is a moral aspect, which I definitely will talk on, but not now, as soon as we progress, which the society made it look as if this kind of things, the girl is supposed to be in school, she was going out the sugar daddy. But these things are not new for some of us who stays on the island and we've worked in hotel. In fact, to some, it's like a norm in Nigerian setting now, including single ladies and married women. So it makes it look, I was disturbed when I see so many single ladies all of a sudden, some of them, with due respect, now make it look as if everyone is only in this same country, where some of these issues is really not is like a normal thing, because the society has almost legalized these things and is looking as if it's a normal trend where everyone probably can just do the same thing and go away with it. That is the easiest way to make a livelihood or survive. And the system is quiet. We see people on the road, we have them as cousins, schoolmates, sisters, friends. Some are more smarter in handling such. So when nothing happens, when they go out and come back, they don't wear a ring. Some do. They use iPhone. They stay in apartment. Some even travel out. Small girl with big God. So if you check some of the status of some ladies, you ask yourself, what are they doing? Are they working? No. Overnight, they call them slay mama, slay queens. So it's not a big deal to some of us. It's like a norm. It's a norm. In fact, 80% of ladies I've come across, it's like a normal thing they do. They just know how to manage it better from each other, from themselves, different, based on the categorization of each other and how secretive you can be. At the end of the day, if you're lucky enough, you're married, you now talk how good you were. If something else happened to some other person that you probably might have done worse. So, leaving that side of the moral and moral aspect of the conversation, because we're not even in a society that should be talking about that. Where I'm even driving at is the area of the physical strength of the lady to have been able to hold down the man, torture and stab. I'm trying to imagine, maybe she has been traumatized or she has psychological issue. Maybe she's a sociopath, I don't know, or psychopath, because what would have warranted her to have done that is what I've been thinking, and I don't have answers. Now, from the brother's statement, it was bonded, gagged, and torture. I'm trying to imagine, can she be the only one in that scene of crime to have done all that at the same time? So those are the questions that.
Okay, let me briefly touch on the moral aspect before I dive into the assertion made by the brother. You see, when it comes to morality or a moral angle to it,
Yes.
It's not about whether everybody is doing a particular thing. It's about, is it right? For me, looking at her age and looking at the Nigerian constitution, though he's still young, but the constitution says once you are 18, you're an adult.
Adult, yes.
So to that extent, it was not wrong. So it was not, you cannot question her decision
as at that time, as an adult.
As an adult, to go out
she
with
feels like doing
a man. You cannot question that. Then looking at the incident that happened and looking at it from the Bible point of view, you see that it is wrong whether as an adult, as a juvenile, to indulge in extramarital affair. Because even the Bible said that marriage is bed undefiled. So to that extent, she is not justified from the Bible point of view to go and start having an affair with whether a married man or not a married man.
Okay, that's from.
But looking at it from legal point of view, you cannot question her action. But having said that, looking at the statement credited to the brother, that the man was gagged, tortured, that pictorial evidence can prove it. For me, I think we should allow the authorities
to conduct the investigation.
A proper autopsy. Because the way it stands, if a man is strangulated, autopsy will reveal it.
Yes.
If a man died out of poison, autopsy will reveal it. If a man died out of stabbing with knife, autopsy will reveal it. But the question again is, do we the rot in Nigerian system? Has he crept into this health system to the point that we may not see fairness in the result of the autopsy?
There have been cases whereby autopsy.
So that is another question
altogether. Yeah, there have been cases whereby autopsy report will come out, and
so I think even the family who is involved.
Yeah, even family will. In fact, there was one in the case of Isiaka Adeleke, the former senator. Yes, the family discarded the autopsy of the government.
The question is this: if we were to have a genuine, independent, unbiased autopsy, all the question of what transpired should not arise.
Come up.
We should have just folded our hands and allow the result of the autopsy to come out, and we all know.
No, the question is coming up because most people have even removed their mind that nothing good will come out from the report.
It is because they no longer have confidence in this project called Nigeria.
But you won't blame them.
I'm not blaming them.
So
because the society, the system have made Nigerians to lose interest in this Nigeria.
So that's why some people can really not blame some of these single ladies.
No, you cannot say you will not blame them.
Sometimes.
You cannot say you will not blame them. I'm trying to separate legality, morality and standard of God.
Yes.
Because if you look at it from the point of morality, it's wrong. Look at it from the point of legality, she's right to go out with.
No, morality now is a very large, debatable topic. So I don't even want us to move there, because what is moral to you might not as well be morality to some other person. So that would be, maybe spirituality would be much more better word to use.
It depends on how you see morality anyway. But looking at the standard of God, that one is clear.
Yes, it's true.
Marriage is bed undefiled, and the Bible abhors fornication. So from that point of view, what the girl did, what the man did was wrong. Then again, looking at the statement credited to the girl, that they took, it's not recent, I happen to know about what they call loud and SK.
Eski.
That
Okay,
they took
okay.
loud
No,
and
I
SK.
understand.
That is narcotic.
Yes.
But again, you look at, as somebody who is supposed to be responsible, I'm talking about the man who died. Looking at his pedigree, if the statement are credited to
Sorry,
the
let me interject you. Pedigree, in what sense are you looking at people's responsibility? Their wealth or their
no,
money?
no, as a journalist.
Journalist?
Yes.
That one is a journalist means they don't take alcohol, they don't smoke.
No, taking alcohol is a different
Even
thing.
politicians or smoking.
Taking alcohol is a different thing. Taking narcotic is another thing. What I'm
Mr.
saying,
Mati,
what I'm
I
saying,
know
what I'm saying,
medical doctors
what I'm saying is this.
who smoke and
The
take
reason I'm saying
narcotics.
this is this. As a journalist, I think he should have known the implication of even taking drugs. I'm not saying implication to his head. I'm saying the legal implication of even having it, being in possession of it.
Sorry. It is because this case came out, one out of...
With or without the case, the law frowns at somebody being in possession of narcotic in Nigeria.
legally.
Except for medical use, there are some reasonable medical purpose for which you can put narcotic to.
You know, well we don't want, sorry, Mr. Mati, we don't want to go to law because we'll be running up this anytime soon. These people knows the law, and we all know how to beat the law. We all know how to beat the system.
I'm not looking at whether I have the person involved have what it takes to beat the law. I'm looking at you as a person. You know that this thing is wrong. Why should you do it?
Well, I understand the part.
Looking at the position of the law, looking at your awareness as a human being, because as a journalist, he's aware. I cannot say he's not aware.
What about politicians who take some of these things? You're talking about just
as
journalists?
much as I condemn a journalist who is in possession of drugs,
in
the same way I will condemn a politician, a policeman, a soldier, irrespective of who
coming
you are.
from that perspective, is good.
Let me tell you why I'm saying it. By the grace of God, I'm a Christian. And the Bible tells me that the law is good. He said, but law is meant for lawbreakers. Meaning a child of God is not supposed to break
the law.
Earthly law of government. Because if a child of God who will return the other ear when they smite the first ear, is not the same person who will go and take narcotic when the law says don't take it. Narcotic is too far.
Sorry, let's not move too far, Mr. Matthew, so that we don't model it up. Some argument will come up that the law of the country has bounded Twitter, and some men of God still tweeted using the back door. So, but we don't want to model it up. When it comes to some of these things, before I let you, because you just made a statement now, I think I have to come in quickly before people will think that I concur with what you just said. Okay.
You see,
you cannot concur, but the fact on ground is the men of God broke the law.
What I'm trying to say is, the Twitter you mentioned, the way it stands, government is not the arbiter in this circumstance. You cannot be a judge in your own case. There's a standard and subsisting.
Did the Bible clear that?
I'm telling you, going by the tenets of the Constitution that even creates the government itself.
Okay, by this very topic, you're holding the tenet of the Constitution.
I'm telling you now that the government is not the judge. It's not supposed to be judged in
its own case. Oh, yes, true.
And the way it stands, an arbiter, ECOWAS court, have asked the federal government, let the status quo remain.
Yes, it's true.
Don't punish, don't criminalize, don't try, prosecute any person.
But that was coming after some men of God
have
used
going forward, the men of God who use it justify their action with the position of the law.
The law came after.
The law came before the government order. The government were violating the law by their utterance.
No, the law came, the court judgment came after they have used it.
The men of God who were using it before the court judgment. Yes. But the law that gave them permission to use it was there before the government order. So the government was.
But wouldn't they have waited till a court counters that position?
I say if they were not aware of the position of the law.
Oh.
I will tell you this. Let me tell you this for purpose of clarity.
So
No.
So which
No,
means
for purpose
you
of
can
clarity.
decide
For
to
purpose of
differentiate
clarity.
the law of the
No,
land
from purpose of
from
clarity.
the actions of the people in
No,
governance.
there's a reason I want to bring this out. If you look at what Adebo said, if for the purpose of propagating the gospel of our Lord Jesus
So you
Christ,
can absorb them on
no,
that.
no, not absorbing them. You can arrest him and jail him. He is not afraid of being jailed on that basis. The same way a Peter will be arrested in Israel, and they will question him. Are you not aware that there is a law that says no, do not preach in the name of Jesus Christ? And Peter will tell them, you elders of Israel. Let me just end with this one. You elders of Israel, judge for yourself whether is it right to obey man or to obey God.
Okay.
Now, what Adeboye and Co did is they decided to obey the constitution and disobey somebody who is created by the constitution.
But that person is
the position of Mr. President was created by the constitution. So Mr. President order is a recipe for crisis.
The people in governance.
It's a recipe for crisis.
The suspension was more or less an act from those ruling.
What Mr. President did.
Okay, Mr. Matthew. Don't worry, I get how I understand. Let's not go to spiritualities. I mean, sometimes discussing some of this topic seems a little bit like here and there, so we need to add up. But the thing, in looking at this very issue, I think maybe the society needs to do more. Because the way, if you go to social media, I have so many friends online, on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on Instagram, like some of us who is very active on some of this social media. Ladies within the age of 18, 19, and 20, small girl with big God, just acquired my new bag. Just some of them fly overseas. They don't work. And like I know so many. While I was in university, I have schoolmates, classmates who sit together that travel every Friday. They come back Sunday night or Monday morning. Both Muslims, both Christian, traditional girls. Some don't use earring. Very decent looking ladies.
But let me quickly correct one impression.
Yeah.
Because you just mentioned both Christians.
Okay, both churchgoers.
Thank you very much.
Both churchgoers. So now the point is, the society from the social media make it look as if it's something that we've not known to have been in existence for a very long time, which parents legalize. Some even go to church and mosque or somewhere and talk to their friends and do Thanksgiving.
Because of their friends that comes.
Their children have maybe gotten a land or got a car, their daughters, and she just traveled out, knowing fully well that most of those ladies don't even have a job of 20,000 naira in a month. They use this iPhone of 200,000 naira. Most of these girls buy Brazilian here. Sometimes to be a young man in this part of the world is annoying. So, coming to look at it, some of these ladies also have accused that most of the ladies in the 50s and 60s have done this in the past, but since the social media was not online to report such and bring it to limelight, there were no eyes on them like this. So all of them come back and now portray this holier than thou attitude. So it's a systemic failure of the society. Religious leaders have not been able to inculcate and exert their level of influence to say what is needful. Rather, we are pursuing prosperity, success, and we use the success story of maybe a congregation member as a yardstick of comparison to others to sometimes demoralize those who are genuinely pursuing a pursuit. In as much as I know that there are genuine people doing genuine business in this country, a reasonable number, more than 60%, are not doing genuine business to make money. But some of these people are used as a yardstick of exhortation and sermons, or an exemplary in meetings, in seminars, in conferences, while they display their ages of how they've achieved so well within the short time. I think we need to change our moral value system. The religious leaders need to do more. Parents need to do more. The system now makes everybody must make it within a short period of time, within an age bracket, and is causing too much pressure on the young ladies. Poverty is also a factor. So it's a combination of so many things. And left for me, I would say the press should not report more of this. We have so many political issues, so many issues in this country that they should concentrate on. Some even went ahead to bring the wife who lost the wife's picture, somebody that lost the husband that is mourning. And what you're deliberating is, oh, look at the fine wife, he left at home to go and touch this girl. Oh, did he touch you? How was it? Where did you start from? You went to a room with him. You don't know that he's going to do 1 round or 2 rounds. Those questions are unnecessary and irrational. So most times, there's no point to even come up with that. So that's the only part I feel maybe the society should concentrate more on some of the issues that are really affecting us as a people so that we can address those ones. So, Mr. Matthew, let's proceed to the other conversation, which is the Yoruba Nation. We are going ahead with July 3rd Lagos rally. This is credited to Ilana Omodua. So, what is your take on that? Even with the statement credited to
Is this on the wall?
No, this is from a socio-political group, Ilana Omodua.
Okay, my take is.
Sorry, before you move on with that, I just had the breaking information that just popped in. Like Nnamdi Kanu has been arrested, and he has been arraigned at the Abuja High Court. So, but let's move on.
How true is that?
So, let's move on with the Yoruba Nation rally for July 3rd.
For me, if you look at.
So sorry for the break in transmission. So Mr. Matthew, we're talking about the Yoruba Nation rally coming up 3rd of July.
Like as I was saying, it is a function of do they have the right to do the rally? Do they have right for self-determination? For me, I think going by the UN Charter that guarantees self-determination, which Nigerian government is signatory to, whether Yoruba Nation, whether Biafran Nation, whichever part of the country, as long as you are doing it within that basis of the law, you have the right to agitate. You have the right to say you want to secede, as long as you are not violating any known law. But looking at, because for I can understand, it is Sunday Igboho that is driving the process as a foot soldier. I think the government is being tactical about handling his agitation, because if you look at all the crises that have erupted in different parts of this country, it has always been federal government mismanaging such situation. I think that may be the reason the government is not harassing, though there have been some attempt to arrest him. So I think that is the reason they have not come hard on him. But looking at whether he have right, he have right for self-determination and he have right to agitate. So to that extent, I do not see whether the federal government or the state government coming hard on people who are coming for that rally on the 3rd of next month has been proposed.
So, sorry, let me come in there. Looking at this government and their body language on how they've handled things as little as peaceful protesters, deployment of police, the June 12th, right? You saw what happened. So you feel this government will not bring out their normal. Nigerian government have only one way of handling issues. The only issue I've seen that Nigerian government tend to have handled differently is the issue of the Niger Delta militant that engaged in serious destruction of the economic life wire of Nigeria. And the issue of the Boko Haram, which they don't have a solution to. Over a decade, we've been battling with Boko Haram since the time of Yaradua before he died. And all the federal government and the Nigerian military can do is to apologize and try to persuade the Boko Haram members, of which I'm sure if the Boko Haram members were engaging them in logical conversation, I wouldn't know, I'm not too sure if by now the same army would have engaged them in any reasonable conversation. Considering the antecedent of the governmental action in Nigeria, Do you see this government as someone who, as a government or a people who want to engage Sunday Igboho in any reasonable conversation?
They may not be interested in engaging in any meaningful conversation, but the approach to stopping his agitation is what I'm looking at. Because naturally, a Nigerian government will not waste time in deploying DSS,
As usual.
army
As usual.
against the peaceful agitators and people who are holding rally. But I think because they have seen the consequence of such action in the past, they are being careful. Because ordinarily, I don't think Nigerian government will be wasting time in deploying even air raid to disperse. Maybe like armor tank. Only recent, they want to tell me that they don't know how to use it. Ordinarily, if they were to hold that rally at Ojota, Lagos State government would have used police to deploy that water cannon.
No, I mean, today is Tuesday. Let's still hold on and see.
So, but I don't see the government doing that. Perhaps because they have seen how such action have boomeranged. We have seen how Yusuf, who was leading Boko Haram at the time, was arrested alive and extrajudicially killed. Today, we are
10 years later
of Boko Haram.
12 years later, yes.
So, I don't know the situation of Ipob now, but we are seeing how federal government equally mismanaged agitation in the southeast. When there was a military genocidal invasion in Afaruku home of Nnamdi Kanu, when he had to run away. So what I'm trying to say is, there's a time they needed to engage the people. And again, you can even kill Nnamdi Kanu or kill a Sunday Igboho, but kill that agitation? I don't think so. So that is where you need to come to terms with non-kinetic approach in addressing an issue that has to do with ideology. So until you address it from the point of ideology, you may not have addressed it, because another Sunday Igboho will come up tomorrow. Another Nnamdi Kanu will come up tomorrow. The same way you are not addressing Boko Haram from the foundation by educating the people, making the people less vulnerable to being recruited into insurgents, and you are killing Boko Haram members with air raid. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you are not doing anything to discourage or to prepare the young ones from joining.
Let me quickly take from the breaking news we have now, which states that this is a statement from the press conference on Tuesday, 29 June 2021 by Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice.
Are you reading for
yes, the
social
press
media?
statement,
Social media.
Yes.
No, it would have been better if you have a
from the link source, right?
Yes.
That's where I'm reading from. So now, he said, self-acclaimed leader of the proscribed secessionist indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has been through the collaborative efforts of Nigerian intelligence security and security services, has been brought back to Nigeria in order to continue facing trial after disappearing while on bail regarding 11-count charge against him. Recent steps taken by the federal government saw to the interception of the fugitive Kanu on Sunday, the 27th day of June 2021. Nwaneka Enyi Nnamdi Ngozichukwu Onwu Kanu, born 25th day of September 1967 at Afarauku, Abia State, is a holder of Nigerian passport, first issued 17th October 2013 at Festac, Lagos. It is recorded that Kanu was arrested on 14th October 2015 on 11-count charge bordering on terrorism, treasonable felony, managing an unlawful society, publication of defamatory
Which paper are you reading from?
matter. It's a press conference obtained by the press. I'm not sure maybe it's online yet. Yes, it's direct from the press stand. So, a judge at the Federal High Court, Abuja, revoked Kanu's bail. Okay, some of the allegations was managing an unlawful society, publication of defamatory matter, illegal possession of firearms, and improper importation of goods, among others. You've seen it.
Now,
Punch. A judge at the Federal High Court, Abuja, revoked Kanu's bail that was granted him on health ground and issued a bench warrant for his arrest on the same date over his failure to appear in court. He has, upon jumping bail, been accused of engaging in subversive activities and including inciting violence through television, radio, and online broadcasts against Nigerian and the state. Kanu was also accused of investigative violence, especially in the southeastern Nigeria, that resulted in the loss of life, property of civilians, military, paramilitary forces, and destruction of civil institutions and symbols of authority. So that statement was credited to Abubakar Malami. So having read that, what is the future of Ipob and the agitation, considering the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu? And looking at the planned protest for Yoruba Nation on July 3rd, can the Southeast be peaceful, considering the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu? Because I know the government have one tactic. Maybe I think they will delay, they will detain him, so he will be in the custody. So will there be peace in the Southeast, or there will be another figure, another state actor emerging? Because even before Nnamdi Kanu, the Ojukwu was at the point. Then Nwazurike, or what's his name? So is it that the government, directly or indirectly, is allowing state actors to pop out on different faces of our society? Because Sunday Igboho, he has been receiving collaborative support now. Nnamdi Kanu has been receiving support, collaborative, cuts across the South and even to the Middle Belt.
Okay, the issue is, from what I can see from Punch, it's still sketchy. The whole, though the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice have claimed that Nnamdi Kanu have been arrested, or be arraigned in court. And from what I can see here, they say details shortly. So it's a function of, he will have his day in court, and the government will ventilate their own opinion. But again, looking at what it portends for the struggle, and looking at Nnamdi Kanu as leader of Ipob, and looking at the government position about activities of Ipob, you will discover that the government may mismanage the situation if they extrajudicially kill him.
Which some have been speculating.
Yes. So since he has been arrested, the right thing to do is to allow the court to have independent proceeding in the process of the prosecution. And they should disabuse the mind of every Nigerian who don't have confidence in the judiciary that justice will be served. And not just justice being served, that justice will be seen to have been served. Not government exerting its undue influence on the judiciary. Then again, I foresee another person coming up to. Kanu will be a child when they were fighting the Civil War.
Yes.
So if Nnamdi Kanu grew up to lead the agitation, it means there's a possibility that another Nnamdi Kanu or any other person that go by any other name anyway can rise up tomorrow to lead the agitation. But the important thing is just fairness, equity. That region. Certainly somebody else will rise up to lead the agitation.
So is this the end of the struggle for Ipob?
That I cannot say. I cannot speak for Ipob because I'm not an Ipob member and I do not know the activities. But what I can authoritatively say is that
so we just dealt with, we moved away from Yoruba Nation. We had the breaking news for the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, another part of one country, agitation group for a different country, which is the Yoruba Nation rally on the 3rd of July, about 3-4 days from now. Then we had the breaking news in less than 5-10 minutes ago on the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. They have a commander, which they said was the one, I think it's a lady from the report, if you read through, I think I read that from, I think, Vanguard, that destroyed, they listed the critical operation she led that made the federal government succumb to calling them on a dialogue discussion. So that they've given her marching orders. I think she's a general. In fact, they even have a
No, I think what happened is federal government acted because of what they have seen militants did in the past. Not perhaps because of the profile of the new general they mentioned. But if you look at what transpired in the past, before under Yaradua specifically, Nigerian economy was crippled before that amnesty. And if you look at what happened in 2016, after Buhari came on board, when there was renewed hostility against oil infrastructure in Niger Delta, you see that there was, at that point, Nigerian economy went into recession, knowing that Nigeria is operating on a mono economy. And I could recall when federal government deployed about 100 gunboats to Niger Delta. At the point, fishermen were rescuing soldiers who were drowning in the sea. Because one, Nigerian government or Nigerian army do not have the capacity to fight amphibious warfare. So it was a challenge for them. The same way they needed an Adakaboro to fight for Nigeria in the Niger Delta area.
During
the same way they do not have what it takes to fight in the sea currently.
Not even the Navy.
So I think that best explains the reason they quickly start jittering and talking as if they're addressing the issue. But for me, most of those issues have not been addressed. Because Mr. President made mention of restructuring. That is the National Assembly that have the mandate to amend the Constitution. I now ask a question. Because going by the history of Nigerian democracy, I've never seen any national issue of this national interest that a bill will see the light of the day coming from a senator. It only sees the light of the day if it is a presidential executive bill
that is inflamed.
So for me, if Mr. President wanted us to take it serious, I think what he needed to do is to put together a formidable team to come up with an executive bill that will address these areas of national interest. And the same Mr. President who have refused to assent to over 200 bills, what's the guarantee that Mr. President will assent to a bill that will come out of this process? And we are seeing the body language of the lieutenants in the field who represent Mr. President in terms of these national issues, like IG of police, whether the one that have left or even the current IG, they have always maintained the position of that these state security arrangements should not be armed. So what's the guarantee that if the constitutional amendment captures state police, what is the guarantee that Mr. President will assent to it for it to become law? A situation where his body language has shown that he is not supporting state police.
That is even on one hand.
The devolution of power we have been talking about, what characterizes it is state police, specifically.
Autonomy to local government.
Autonomy to local government, and ultimately changing the sharing formula of resource the Commonwealth. And these areas are areas that I don't think Mr. President will give attention if there's any amendment to those.
So the agitation should continue. We only have two choices. If you're not restructuring to make the government an all.
So I'm saying that Mr. President may not be sincere.
Sorry, I wanted to drive out the point. If you are not restructuring based on the demands of these people to form an all-inclusive setup, how federal system is being run in all part of developed climes, Sena climes. I mean, we use the term Sena climes because those countries operate differently from our own society. We're fair to ourselves. It simply means the Niger Delta man should continue. Because what is
his aggression against critical infrastructure?
That's what I'm saying, because it's a two-way thing. If the system is not readjusted to accommodate or find solution to his own pleas and demands or agitation, he only has one choice. That is what the Niger Delta Avengers just said.
But if you look at, you see why I'm questioning the sincerity of this government. Look at the cleanup of Ogoni land. Ogoni happens to be one of the most polluted land in the whole world globally currently. And it will take you about 25 years to have a complete cleanup of Ogoni land. And this government hurriedly kickstarted the process of the cleanup. But more than 6 years after the inauguration, have you seen any serious activity going on in Ogoni with respect to the cleanup? I have not seen. So that is why I feel the government is not sincere. And again, it's unfortunate that even the NDDC, that is part of the demand of Niger Delta, the government have not really come up to tell us or to tell the world when they are inaugurating the board. I can understand Akpabio, the supervising minister of the agency, the intervention agency, have said that they have started the process of submitting the name of substantive board to Mr. President. So I think the right thing to do is for him to hurry up with the process so that at least, since it's an intervention agency, so that the people can have a sigh of relief that the board can now run with its substantive board being in place, so that the dividends of democracy being channeled to the people through NDDC can now trickle down to the common man by way of infrastructural development and other intervention are being captured by the constitution to come to the people through that agency. Having said that, if until you allow state police, and this is going to come by a way of restructure, and this is going to come by way of constitutional amendment, until you allow it, you cannot say you have addressed the insecurity in Nigeria. So for me, I think Mr. President have not addressed the fundamentals as being raised by the Niger Delta agitators. He specifically mentioned the Avengers. For me, even as I do not encourage anybody to start bombing critical oil infrastructure, I encourage the president, Mr. President, to act fast and salvage this country and Niger Delta from further destruction.
Any final words, Mr. Matthew?
My final word is this, that Mr. President should allow the voice of people to be heard. That Mr. President and this government should stop trampling on people's rights. That this government should always allow the rule of law to prevail. That if there is a court judgment, like this ECOWAS court that have given judgment with respect to Twitter ban, that the government should allow the judgment stand. The government should allow the judgment to run its full circle until there is another counter judgment. And that if the government is not satisfied and pleased with a particular judgment, that the right thing to do is for the government to either challenge that judgment by way of appealing that judgment, or go to a court of higher jurisdiction to challenge it. So you either appeal it or you challenge it. Whichever is the case, that the government should learn to operate within the ambit of the law, which is the rule of law.
Okay. And for those who probably wanted to get in touch with us and those who have been watching, we really appreciate you. But on a final note, we plead with those in authorities, those in government, those within the security apparatus network, those who happen to be within the power range of making decision, governmental actions and inactions. For any society whereby there's lack of equity, there's no justice, there's no equality, what you'll be seeing, which we've seen and we're going to see it in different forms and in different style and in different mechanisms and in different ways, is agitation. I haven't seen what we've gotten as a nation from the extrajudicial killing of the former leader of the Boko Haram member, in person of, I think his name is Yusuf, under the leadership of Umar Musa Yaradua. That escalated the violent level of what we have. A decade later, 10 years, destruction, development of IDP camps, no critical infrastructure in the area in northeastern zone. The place is not safe. Children don't go to school. And what are we seeing in the northwestern region? Escalation of kidnapping, banditry, and all sorts of violence. It has creeped down to Fulani S-men in the north central and even to the southern part of the country. If Nnamdi Kanu has been arrested, I wish you good luck. But one thing I pray, even if he leaves or he dies, two things are involved. The escalation of the demands of these people is not based on physical arrest. It is a psychological thing. It is a thing of the mind, and the process of dealing with such is psychological, not with the use of barrel of gun or with the court procedure to intimidate or to thwart such. Moving away from that, the southwestern part have really not been very active in secessionist moved. All of a sudden, we're seeing Sunday Igboho moving earnestly. They've been colliding and been giving themselves corroborative messages with Nnamdi Kanu. I wish the federal government good luck. I wish them more understanding to the process of settling some of these disputes. The root cause of this is what we should be looking at, not the roof cause. Moving away from that, the Niger Delta critically have been demanding for resource control and development of key areas. The government should please do the needful. Until tomorrow, same time, I am Efyong Samuel, and with me is Mr. Uluku Bienusi Matthew. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once more, thank you for having me.
Mr. Matthew, welcome.
All right.
But as we did now, they see one guy upload them for one page, but I don't believe. Now I can even talk about